Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Today, we have another set of great stories about crazy people and their revenge. But before we start, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. And our first story. Illegally fired for wanting safe working conditions. Backstory. I've worked in construction, paving, and mining for years. Was a fabricator, welder, mechanic, laborer, and equipment operator, or a combination of all five at various times. If you're familiar with MSHA, Mine Safety and Health Administration, then you know it's like OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, on steroids. My dad has decades of experience in the coal, iron, copper, borax, and uranium mining industries and is a MSHA instructor, as well as a pilot. My older brother worked in construction and mining as well, and is now the safety compliance officer for a huge construction company. My uncle was a journeyman for almost 40 years. That's a lot of years to be a power line electrician and never suffer a serious injury. Needless to say, we have a rather large knowledge of what is safe and what is not safe. Safety regulations aren't BS. They're designed to keep your fingers attached and your heart beating. Story. I quit my last mining job because the employer was shady as hell. White-collar crime stuff? Yeah, they went out of business. And I was tired of the 200-plus mile commute each day on top of 12-plus hours of work in 130-degree-plus heat. I began looking for a new job and found a fabrication gig, building, maintaining, repairing off-road vehicles. I enjoyed the work, and even though it paid about half of what the mining did, fairly large facility with about 40 employees. I had decent coworkers. This was my first job with air conditioning. By the way, air conditioning is the best. However, I couldn't really stand the shop owner, SM. He was a know-it-all that didn't really know crap about welding or fabrication or safety. I'd say something like, I think we can do this work/repair/job twice as fast if we do this instead. And his normal response would be, well, we pay you to work, not think/ask questions, etc. This guy was, and to my knowledge still is, an idiot. And I can't figure out how he got his position. Literally every time you'd step into his office, he was watching YouTube or reading a magazine. Literally never lifted a finger in the shop in my year and a half there. No idea what he actually managed. For about the first year, each month I'd put in orders for stuff like welding gloves, respiratory filters, welding hoods, welding wire, tools, raw materials, etc. You know, stuff that they're supposed to supply. In my last few months there, SM slacked even more, which I didn't think was possible, and started skimping on my orders. I'd order 5 pairs of decent gloves, and he'd give me 2 pairs of crappy gloves. I'd order name brand parts to repair machinery, he'd get me cheap Chinese parts. Other requests were simply ignored, and I did end up spending my money to purchase PPE, personal protective equipment, which got really old really quick. And I'd tell him stuff along the lines of, hey, you can't let people block fire extinguishers like that, or you can't store these chemicals there. He'd brush it off like I had no idea what I was talking about. This is where all the safety stuff I'd learned and been around for decades came in handy. He really started getting under my skin bad, so I wrote up a long list of about 20 to 25 OSHA violations I found over the course of a Monday, and took about 60 photos, which I planned to turn into him since it's his job to fix this stuff. That Friday, I went looking for him around lunchtime, but couldn't find him. So I went to HR and basically vented to them about SM and about how, because of this ever-increasingly low standards, they're begging for an accident to happen. The work environment had become unsafe, and it needed effing someone to straighten the crap up. I left HR and went back to work. About 30 minutes later, SM walks up to me, and he's PO'd. The convo went a little something like this. HR tells me you don't think this place is safe. Yeah, man, something's got to be done about some of this stuff. In fact, I got a list for you right here. He takes the list from my hand and rips it in half. Well, if it's so unsafe, why are you here? Because You know what? You can take the rest of the day off. All right. In fact, don't bother coming back Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. Are you firing me for bringing up safety complaints to you? I start getting a fat grin. Yes, in fact, say no more. See ya. I gathered up my tools and toolbox and left. I get home and file for unemployment. My unemployment claim gets rejected, surprise, surprise, and I appeal the decision, so the matter gets sent to arbitration a few weeks later, roughly 6 weeks after I was let go. I'm in the waiting room and reviewing all the paperwork relating to my claim, and the first page I see is the company response to my initial claim, which said I was fired for freaking out, being belligerent, and wouldn't say what safety issues actually were. The next page is their response to my appeal, which said I was fired for being belligerent, and despite my poor attitude, they were fixing the safety issues I brought up. I get called into the arbitration room, and I'm actually shocked that no one from my former company showed up. It was just me and the arbitrator, very Judge Judy-like lady. She asked me straight and direct questions. I answered truthfully, and the whole thing was over in probably 6 minutes. She asked if I had any questions, and I had just one. Why did they say on page 1 of my paperwork that I wouldn't tell them what the safety issues were, but page 2 says they are working toward fixing the issues I told them? The arbitrator went silent for a minute while reading each page and just says, you're right. I'm told it'll be about 2 weeks before I have an answer. The next morning, maybe 14 hours after arbitration, I receive a letter saying my benefits are approved, plus I get retroactive benefits from the date I was fired, and I'm receiving $100 more each week net income on unemployment than I was making full-time at the company, LOL. Fast forward about a year. I saved some of the unemployment money and used it to get my own little fabrication shop going. My dad calls me up one day, letting me know that one of his customers is an OSHA inspector, and they got to talking about what happened with my former company, and me and my dad even showed those pictures to the inspector guy. I didn't have a PC or printer at home, so I printed those 60 pics up at his work and left copies there the year before. He said the inspector was appalled by the pictures and said he'd check it out. Fast forward another year. My little fabrication company gets brought into the fold of the company my dad works for so they could stop outsourcing mechanics and fabricators, and it'd be much cheaper to have a mechanic/welder in-house. On one of my days off, that same OSHA inspector fella came by and got to talking with my dad again about my former company. Apparently, he did a surprise visit on them not long after he'd seen my dad the previous year and handed out somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 in fines for OSHA violations. Not fix-it tickets, full-on pay this or we shut you down fines. Just gotta say, felt good. You know, this is the exact kind of story I like. Smart people who prove their knowledge over ignorant, stupid people. Thanks for sharing. Really happy to hear you got your own shop now, too. And our next story. This call has been recorded for quality and training purposes. About a year ago, I was working behind the counter at a liquor store. Wasn't particularly busy, and my boss was stacking shelves nearby when an entitled customer walks in. She gets several bottles of alcohol and comes up to the counter. I'd estimate she looks under 20. I say, "Good evening. Before I serve you, do you have a valid ID?" She says, "I don't need ID. I'm 25. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I'm required by law to see ID from all customers that may be underage." "Well, I don't have any ID. Just sell me the alcohol." "I'm sorry. If you don't have valid ID, I can't serve you." She goes absolutely ape crap. She screams at me, calls me, among other things, a pedophile, a rapist, and a fat piece of crap. "I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store." She's still screaming at me and then the manager as she leaves the store. Now, this isn't an unusual occurrence, and the boss and I laugh it off and get back to work thinking no more of it. So fast forward about a week. I'm working again when the boss calls me to the office. I get a phone call from HR. He hands me the phone and I say, "Hey, what can I do for you?" "We received a complaint from a customer that you were exceptionally rude to her on this date. Due to this, we've signed you up for a mandatory course on customer service at X at Y time and date." Hang on just a second. I grab my phone and switch on the record function. "Okay, could you repeat that?" They repeat it. "My manager was here for that non-incident, and he'll confirm I was not rude to that customer." "Yes, he said that. Nonetheless, you have to attend the customer service course. It's mandatory." Hang on. So are you trying to tell me that my manager and I are lying? "No, but we got a complaint, so you need to do the course." So let me get this straight. Despite the fact that I was not rude to the customer, and my manager says that I was not rude to the customer, and she was literally lying, I have to attend a course on customer service. Yes. Do you know what workplace bullying is? What? Workplace bullying. What? Why? You are punishing me for an event that did not happen. That qualifies as workplace bullying. I suggest you take me off this customer service mandatory course. I can't do that. You have to attend it. No problem. I quit. I'll see you in court. I should also mention that this call has been recorded for quality and training purposes. I put the phone down and chat with the manager for a few minutes while he tries to calm me down from the incandescent rage I'm feeling. few minutes later, phone rings again. It's HR supervisor. We stick it on speaker and I record again. HR supervisor says, "Hey, what's this all about?" So I explain what HR told me, and he questioned the manager and myself. After a few minutes of back and forth, he says, "Okay, I'll take you off the course." "That's not good enough," I say. "What?" "I'm a victim of workplace bullying. I'm taking you to court." "Well, that's hardly necessary. We fixed the problem, right?" "No, I've been insulted and then told that the company does not trust me, nor does it trust my manager. I'd prefer to take my chances in court as I have direct evidence of workplace bullying." "Well, what can we do to resolve this?" "Two things. I'd like a raise, and for you to personally send a memo to everyone stating that they cannot just send people on mandatory training courses unless there is actual evidence that wrongdoing has occurred." "I'll see what I can do," they said. Anyway, I got a small raise and a memo was sent out requiring review of customer complaints before any mandatory training was required of staff. So I took the win. The boss and I had a good laugh about it, and he admired my bravery in standing up to the dreaded HR. What angered me the most, though, is the thought of how many staff had to attend mandatory training for something that was entirely the fault of some EC. A lot of companies underestimate the power of "F you, I quit, and see you in court." Hey guys, thank you for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.